Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE. In this episode, I want to talk about this new app from Apple. It's called Reality Converter app. Basically, this app allows you to convert some common 3D objects or 3D models into a USDZ format. So basically, USDZ again is an augmented reality format for Apple environment for iOS or Mac OS. And in the past, you can do a conversion using the command line tool that comes with a USD Python bundle. But now you actually have this app, Reality Converter, and I have this app over here. It's currently available as a beta app for Apple developer. And yeah, the app itself is really simple, but it's really useful, and it's very graphics. You got this interface that's similar to Reality Composer app, but the purpose of this app is simply for you to drag 3D models, and you can inspect the models. You can do a little bit of customizations with the materials and textures. You can check it in the environment, and then you can export it as USDZ, and you can actually run like a batch export using this app. So I will be using example from Kronos Group. So Kronos Groups is I think a group of people that works on GLTF file format. You might have heard GLTF or GLB. It's kind of like AR object for WebXR, things like that. But basically, they provide this bunch of 3D models that you can use to test and to learn more about the format. So I got it here already. We have the source model, and we have a lot of 3D models. Like for example, the duck one is the easiest one. So it's in DA format. Let's see if we can just drag it here. So we can't apparently, but we can open it, of course, in Blender. We can use import DA collada, and then just put it here, and then import collada. So I always have, I think Blender is one of the best 3D software out there, open source wise, that allows you to open and mix 3D models. So we are lucky to have Blenders, and so this is what we have, right? It imports the model like this, and we can inspect whether this is correct. Okay, we have the ducky, and we can file export as GLB, and this is just a quick example where you actually need Blender still, even if you have Reality Converter app. So duck export. I'm just gonna save it with as GLB. It's the binary format of GLTF. So this should contain the texture, and now we can drag and drop it into Reality Converter app. And at this point, you can look at the ducky models, and let's look at it full screen. So this is the model's name. We can frame it. Currently, it looks very metallic because we didn't set up the metallic or the roughness property of this model. We can make it like really glossy, for example, or metallic. There's a lot to play with, but I'll show it to you here. First of all, you can use the preset environment to look at the duck in different light conditions, maybe a little bit darker. If you have like emissions on the ducky, you can actually look at it over here. Show grid, show environment, change the exposure. But what's really interesting is, of course, the materials. So here, from the original collada format that we imported into Blender, and we assign, it comes with the base color already assigned, which is this diffuse or the base color. This is something that we can replace and we can customize as needed. The other slots are actually empty. We don't have any texture, and I don't think we can. I don't think we can change these attributes over here, the value, unfortunately, for now. But you can inspect this, and maybe you can scale. No, you cannot change this at the moment. But you can give a copyright, for example, copyright ducky, and then change the unit size, and then you can file export as USDZ. So that's the most important part, of course, this USDZ export. So save. I actually have a bunch of different ducks texture that I can try simply by drag and dropping it into the base color. So it's different ducky color. And this is actually something that I customize using Blender, Blender compositing. Maybe I should show it to you now, but for now, I'm just gonna focus on another model. So other source model, for example, we have the helmet. It's actually a really good one. So there's a flight helmet. It comes as FBX. If you try to import this into Blender, it will not come with the materials. But luckily, we already have the one that's already completed over here. So like I said, this is a good study, a good opportunity for you to study about 3D models, 3D assets. So this is the flight helmet model that I already converted as USDZ, and I can simply just airdrop it into the iPhone or the iPad. It's gonna work. Okay, and on top of that, of course, this is like this format, like GLTF, GLB, will simply work on Android device that's supported. So with GLTF and the bin and all this texture, you can simply drag and drop it into Reality Converter. We have this ducky still here, you can delete it, but I'm gonna keep it. We have this flight helmet, right? And we can inspect the assets. We have 5 different materials, so glass, plastic, leather, etc. And you can actually look at all the texture that's being applied. So the metallic is actually just black. There's the normal, occlusion, roughness. I really like the glass part. Actually, it looks so beautiful on this model. And we can change the environment. So let's try the basic one. This model is really beautiful. I mean, if you use Blender and then learn modeling and then texturing materials, you eventually can achieve this level. So if you actually want to know how this asset looks like if you actually import it into Blender, I actually suggest you to do it because it's Blender PBR is actually very compatible with the GLTF. So if we open up that model, so in the past, this is what how I studied the GLTF model. So this is the flight helmet. If you import the GLTF, it should be converted into Blender material that's kind of interchangeable. So you can actually, at this point, you can observe the model either using EEV or Cycles render. You can try it. Of course, this is very, very similar to Reality Converter app. And the nice thing about this, of course, you can go into the shader editor and then look at how Blender convert this into Blender's own material. So it is 100% compatible because the Chronos group works. They works on this add-on for Blender. So now you can actually learn how everything is put together. Okay. So for example, you can see here we get this occlusion, which actually comes from this metallic roughness somehow for this particular material. So it's very interesting. Currently for USDZ we don't have things like subsurface yet, no anisotropic, but we do have clear code roughness, emissions. That's really cool if you really use it. And the normal is also really powerful, but sometimes what's a little bit tricky is of course the alpha and the transparency, so you need to be careful on that. But everything else is pretty self-explanatory. So the principal BSDF is of course Blender's own nodes for material. This occlusion, this is actually something special. So if you ever want to build a shader or a material with a complete texture, this is one really good example where you can study and you can actually understand how it's put together. Okay, if you were to edit it in Blender, this is actually a good starting point. If you actually want to put everything together manually, you can as well. So if I get rid of everything, this is the flight helmet that's already GLTF. With GLTF format, usually just drag and drop it into Reality Converter and then export as USDZ. So that's easy. If you work with the source model, it's actually a matter of kind of like drag and dropping. You can, in the past, you can use USDZ converter and then simply assign the material one by one by command line. But now it's actually much easier as long the assets have the material already assigned. For example, this lenses matte, we're gonna try to put this together. So lenses matte, ambient occlusions, just drag it into occlusions, base color, metallic, normal. This is definitely very visual and easy to understand. So lenses matte, do we have transparency here? Maybe we don't have the whole material. Let's continue anyway. So leather parts, again, ambient occlusions, base color, metallic, normal. So that's leather part. Glass and plastic. Okay, glass and plastic. Ambient occlusion, base color, metallic, normal. So this one doesn't have the alpha informations, unfortunately. So rubber, ambient occlusion, base color, metallic, normal. And yeah, I think we have pretty much most of the material except for the alpha channel, like the opacity. That's probably something that if you actually work on these assets and then your client said, okay, I want the glasses to be transparent, so you probably want to look at something like Blender, where you actually modify the texture map and then just add the transparency. So this, you can study this model that way. So this model, if you just file save as flight helmet demo, so this become like a Blender file. Of course, this one is already complete with all the transparency, but you can look at this guy, for example, and and you can look at the images and study the transparency. So base color, normal, occlusion, roughness, metallic. So I have a feeling that the alpha actually is in this channel. So color and alpha, just color alpha. So that's that one. So that's the glass, but you can see there's an alpha channel. So yeah, that's actually the alpha part. So maybe with the glass and plastic, or the lenses rather, so with the lenses we can just drag this into the, oh, maybe not the metallic, but the opacity. Maybe I need to invert it or something. No, I was right. So you could just use the base color grayscale as the opacity, but you can tweak it further if you like. So we don't need this metallic. So now, yeah, you can see, okay, from here you can simply file and then export it as USDZ. So it's really how this reality converter app works. You cannot actually save anything here. So that's one thing. But you can have multiple models. Maybe I should show it to you. So I have, earlier today, I played around with these and then I studied how I could like change this ducky model. So we start with this duck texture that's just yellow, but I play around with the idea of giving it a different color, and I'm using Blender compositor nodes simply to make a bunch of variations of the ducky. Okay, and then I export it as GLB one by one. Just like with what we have earlier with the ducky here, the GLB, I can actually just copy it multiple times so it has different name, and I'm gonna select all of them, drag it into this here. I can get rid of the flight helmet. So we have 5 different ducky. Each one of them is a bit metallic, but I have already this texture that I created using Blender Compositor, and simply drag and drop it. So this is one example of customizations using Reality Composer app. It's actually really cool that we can do this very, very easily. I still think that knowledge of Blender is gonna be so much useful, like despite that you're already able to play around with the model. Of course, like for example, another example, instead of just using the Chronos group, if you go to Sketchfab and then just find any kind of model, you can simply download it as GLTF and then you can drag it into Reality Converter, and then you just export it as USDZ most of the time. If you have any issue, you can always go to Blender and then import it and then make changes. So okay, we have 5 different duck models. We can just export all. Each one of them have different names. If they have the same name, it will not export properly. So duck export batch, export. It's gonna export all of them. You get a tick mark, and you're done. Now all you need to do, maybe you just go to Reality Composer, or you just airdrop all the ducky models into your iPhone or iPad, and it's gonna work. So in Reality Composer, you can bring all the USDZ. So it's really becoming that simple. Okay, so if I zoom in and then frame the scene, we have 5 ducky model. We can select all, reset the positions, and simply put the ducky on top of each other. So the nice thing about Reality Composer, you can kind of stack the ducky on top of each other like that, and you can just export it, and it's becoming a single USDZ. So there's the file format USDZ itself, probably something that I'm still exploring. It's a very interesting format. So as a USDZ itself, so let's say I save this, right? File, save. Maybe I can share it as reality format or export it. No. Okay, export the current scene. I'm gonna save it as duckies reality. So this reality format is something that you can open and preview on iOS, or yeah, I'm gonna save this. However, if let me check if I can just drag and drop the reality format. Maybe I can, maybe I cannot. So ducky reality, drag and drop into reality converter. Of course, it doesn't work, okay? Ideally, I think with the USDZ or the USD format, we can simply combine and put together objects to make a bigger and more complex USDZ. So apparently, of course, we can't actually do that. But you have seen how it works, how Reality Converter works with 3D assets, and how you bring it into Reality Composer. So Reality Converter is really just converting 3D objects. But every now and then, I'm pretty sure you will still need like a 3D softwares, just in case if you wanna do a kind of like a tweak. Let's say, okay, that's restricted image. Let's say if we just downloaded some other objects, make sure it's downloadable. So I'm gonna search for Piggy. Okay, my internet is super slow. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Let's try this. Download. It's gonna be super slow, I guess. I'm gonna download it anyway. Just here. This is the format, GLTF. With Sketchfab, GLTF is actually one of they're kind of like a special export. You will find it for most of the 3D assets. Most of the time, unless when the GLTF is actually only have like a single-sided and you need to add some kind of thickness because USDZ only supports one-sided, or maybe if the surface is flipped, then you need to make changes using Blender or other 3D package. So Piggy, GLTF, and Bean, drag and drop it. This one, let's see, okay. So that's how it looks. Seems to have texture, which is interesting because if you bring it into Blender, you can actually see the texture, if I'm not wrong. So I'm gonna delete everything, file, import, GLTF, and downloads Piggy, GLTF. So let's check this guy. Image editor. Oh, okay. This one doesn't have texture. Okay, cool. Interesting. maybe they still have, maybe, okay, in this case, this piggy doesn't have texture, but you might have like materials, like I have this bamboo and wood materials, and I can simply go to the material, give it a, okay, base color is albedo, metal. Luckily we already have UV on the model, so we can just simply drag and drop this material. So we have this piggy model. We can't even, okay, this is one thing, okay, with the 3D model, it's not always centered at the root. In Blender, you can always make changes, okay, so that's really one thing, really important. You can change the pivot in Blender, but like I said, not all 3D models is set properly, so that's why you still need Blender, for example, and then you maybe with the root stuff, you want to fix the root. I'm using Blender 2.81 or 2.82, so we can actually drag and we can fix the origin. Still kind of figuring this out. Not the origin, maybe just the locations. Oh well, in this case it's just the peak, so maybe we just gonna clear the parent. We don't need all the empty. Clear the parents, and you just reset the peak into positions. So set origins into geometry, and then option G. So the peak is now centered. So now you can actually file export GLB, and the pivot should be correct, unlike this. Okay, so that's one thing. And then anyway, reality converter wise, you can just simply export it, export the peak, and now you have peak with a wooden texture. Peak wood. Save it on the desktop. So once it is USDZ, then your job is done, and you can now go to Reality Composer app or send these assets to your friend. This guy won't be centered. Okay, so this kind of asset is not ideal. So you need to center the pivot using Blender. For example, select all, empty, delete. So this peak is better. File, export, GLB. Okay, sorry about the noise. It's really noisy over here. But if we go back to Reality Converter, again, drag and drop the piggy. This time the piggy is actually properly centered, pivot-wise. Okay. Oh, there's one more thing with the Reality Converter app. If your GLB has animations, you can actually play it back. Let's see if I have an example. Maybe I do have an example with the door. So with this door, let me try again. It's GLB. These door assets actually have animation, so I can play it back over here. So that's really nice, right? So this door is a metallic. It doesn't have any kind of texture, but I can always go to my materials and drag and drop this albedo, metallic, normal, and roughness. So now it's a kind of wood. Okay. So that's a quick rundown of how you use Reality Converter app. If you're actually interested with Apple AR, I think it's going to be really huge in terms of pushing AR and maybe VR very, very soon in the future. So hopefully you find this useful. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.